Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being today with us. We are starting a new webinar series, in this case for the African region. And we will start today with a webinar with Miriam Mabeya. And she will be talking about creating a sustainable community-based approach for achieving the SDGs through the use of geospatial technologies. Before the presentation, I will review the code of conduct that we always have in our webinars. Please be polite and respectful to the speakers and all the participants. If you have any question, you can type it in the chat box, and then during the Q&A, we will be replying. And this presentation is being recorded, and we will upload it later to our YouTube channel. Now I will give the floor to Naima, who will be presenting our speaker today.
Yes, thank you, Valentina. Welcome, everyone. I would like to introduce our speaker today. We have Miriam Mabeya with us. She earned her master's degree in geospatial information systems from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Kenya. She is currently as a GIS professional and country representative for WIM Plus in geospatial for Kenya region. She has previously worked for Worldview Technologies and E3 Eastern Africa, and has 10 years of experience by providing GIS solutions to customers in the geospatial industry. She is also applied the geospatial skills in research, particularly in climate, agriculture, and gender issues, and is as a member of Gender Climate Change Research Institute, where she is participating in proposal writing. Her topic today is about creating a sustainable community-based approach for achieving SDGs using geospatial technologies. Her presentation will focus about the application of geospatial technologies to each SDG goal, and how developing countries can adapt them at local levels for the community to use. So thank you very much for being here today, Miriam. I would like to encourage participants to ask their question in the chat box, and we will answer them by the end of this presentation. Yes, Miriam, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Naima. Thanks, Valentina, for organizing the event. Thank you, Naima, for the introduction. I'm happy to join you and happy to present on the topic as mentioned. I'm going to share my screen so that I can start directly on the presentation. So our topic, as introduced by Naima, is creating a sustainable community-based approach for achieving the SDGs through the use of geospatial technologies. And it seems there's a lag so in moving through the slides. So you bear with me on that. It might waste a few seconds to a minute or so.
Yeah, we are seeing the second slide, the brief one.
Yeah. Based on the research that I've done in Africa, actually it's possible to create a community-based approach regarding the achieving of SDGs. I've seen quite a number of mapping societies are engaging in this and collecting relevant geospatial data, and they're making it open, engaging the local communities in mapping these social amenities, mapping the streets, mapping the villages, mapping the hospitals, the roads, the schools, and having them in a map. And they have made this data open, and we are encouraging open data so that many people can participate in achieving these SDGs, and it can make it easier for the policy makers, for the donors, the government, the non-government organizations, all the stakeholders that are involved in this. It only becomes easier when you have data to help make an informed decision. So the challenge still remains, although even though this mapping is open mapping is going on, still the challenge remains in terms of sharing data, people accessing what is already available, but the open mapping societies are trying to create awareness and encouraging people on this, so that the fewer resources that are available can be made open, even for everyone and the stakeholders to access, and even to help get support from the donors. So the focus of this presentation will be the application of the geospatial technologies into each SDG goal, and how, as developing countries in Africa, we can adopt them for at local levels, so that the communities can use and make powerful, informed decisions in achieving these SDGs at the end of the day. So this is just a brief on the sustainable goals. I believe everyone has an idea of the 17 goals that the UN is working towards to, and all stakeholders are working on. So SDG number 1 is no poverty. We are working towards poverty eradication. And in this, we see that data collected from satellites can be used to create GIS-based poverty map. And this can be made open and can be accessed and updated using even our smartphones, tablets, any smart device that can access data can be used to update this. And we see that this information about the potential hotspots where communities must work together to reduce the poverty. For example, there is the indicator of poverty, like a monthly credit consumption, the proportion of people using the use of mobile phones, the number of people who are using mobile phones, and the movement of mobile phones. So all these can help create that, can form part of the data that goes into the poverty map. Putting villages and household prints on a map by engaging the local communities, we find that we are able to understand those areas that have got low income, low unemployment rates, areas where people are living below poverty line. Like, we find that there are many people that are living below the $2 per day, and we are working towards achieving this goal, so that at least they do not go to the extreme poverty and go beyond. So, and that is the purpose of this. Then the SDG number 2, which is zero hunger, using satellites and unmanned vehicles, geospatial data can be used, can be collected and used for agricultural yield estimation. Forecasting can be done in areas where we expect to have good rainfall, areas where we don't expect to have rainfall, and therefore planned irrigation can be done to ensure that good plans are in place for smart agriculture. So such imagery data can be shared, it can be made open, in the open data hubs, and this can be regularly updated and accessed by stakeholders once it's made open. So the smart agriculture enhances and improves access to food and enhances food production. So the use of unmanned vehicles is what that helps support precision agriculture, and we see that the modern agricultural practices are moving towards the use of unmanned vehicles. So the satellite data contributes to achieving this goal of zero hunger by providing timely data on agricultural yield and market demand using modeling techniques, which is possible and is actually being done. Then SDG number 3 is good health and well-being. Here we see that geospatial analysis can be done on imagery data from satellites, and this can help to examine the healthcare systems that are already in place and put plans on how to improve on them. The location of hospitals, mapping of disease pattern distribution, like for example, the outbreaks of Ebola, cholera, even the most recent COVID-19, mapping these patterns can help put measures in place, mapping the spread of the infections over time, and it helps to create and aid targeted interventions. Also, it helps develop GIS-based applications that can map confirmed and active cases, map, deaths, recoveries, to be able to determine where diseases exist and where they have occurred. Spatial data can also help get to understand social vulnerability, age, and other factors. And all these factors are important in monitoring those groups that are at risk and in which regions are these groups. Mapping the healthcare capabilities that is inclusive of all facilities, the data, that is data on employees, medical resources, equipments, the goods and services, just to understand and respond to the current and potential impact of diseases. And when doing that, we see that geospatial data helps in achieving this SDG. Quality education. GIS can be used to map the distribution of schools. That there are inequalities in terms of education. We find that there are areas where we have a population that is well educated, and we have areas that population is not educated, or they cannot access education at all. So it's only through GIS that we can be able to know where this is happening and what's happening. So by analyzing data on education services, GIS can help to design targeted interventions and improve education outcomes. And it also helps to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. That's the youth and even early childhood education, the young children from the beginning as they start the education, to help ensure that there is equitable education for everyone. It also helps to ensure that all girls and boys, they complete free and equitable education, quality primary education. For example, here in Kenya, we're having free primary education. So to ensure that there is quality free primary education is to use this data to make informed decisions, to create targeted interventions in areas where we are not having, children are not accessing education as required. And this will help achieve this SDG by 2030. Gender equality, that's SDG number 5. Actually, this currently we are hearing things to do with gender equity, gender equality everywhere. Societies, NGOs are trying to promote the practice of including everyone and having equality. So GIS can help quantify the percentage of male and female access to fundamental necessities. And this is by mapping the access to these amenities. And it's only easy to compare when we have this data. We can be able to compare the differences in gender in terms of locations by mapping out these statistics, mapping out the distribution of these resources by both genders. And this is the only way to achieve this SDG. Through my research, I was able to come across what Saville Mekong have done on a gender equality. They have developed a gender equality monitoring platform, which I'm not going to open it because of time, but you can be able to access it and see what they have done. So they're able to track gender in the lower Mekong region. And you can see that the purpose, how this platform is helping, and it's doing 2 key functions: visualizing gender inequality in the region, and also offering gender repository data for public use. So that means that all stakeholders who are involved, the donors can now make use of this information to make decisions. Yes. SDG number 6 on clean water and sanitation. You can see that satellite imagery can help determine spatial location of water sources, the distribution of water pollution points. Having this information will help that to ensure that there is safe drinking water and clean water for everyone. The location of point and non-point pollution source will help create interventions on how to reduce this pollution. And this data can be made open and I'm encouraging open data so that stakeholders can be able to access and engaging the local communities in terms of making this data open and in terms of collecting this data. And this data now can help make decisions and drive the achievement of this SDG. Affordable and clean energy, which is SDG number 7. Geospatial data can be used to map the areas where we have suitable sites for renewable energy sources, and also open source data sets allow for free access to information that can inform the stakeholders on projects at national scale and even projects at local scales. So the development of the renewable energy sites can then be tracked and updated through the web mapping services. And this can allow for a country to be able to forecast the changes that will need to be made and to get closer to achieving this SDG. So GIS-based mapping for location of energy sources can really help, because when you get to understand the location of these energy sources, then you are able to see the areas that have, do not have sources at all. You're able to see the gaps and be able to create interventions. Also, there is the use of drones for mapping the areas of oil and gas and pipeline monitoring, so that we can be able to see the leakages and reduce and create interventions on that. Also, the use of remote sensing in finding out areas where we have location of optimum location for renewable energy and be able to make smart, informed decisions. SDG number 8 on decent work and economic growth. Here we see that GIS can be used to map the economic activity to identify areas where intervention is needed. Actually, by mapping the changes in land use, land cover, these maps can be used to be able to determine areas where we have different, we can be able to see different economic activities that are going on in different regions. And we can also be able to analyze data on employment and economic growth and be able to create interventions, and this can help improve the economic outcomes. So GIS-based maps can also be used for be able to map the parking and other facilities, and also be able to improve access to these facilities by the specially abled persons. Because when we are doing these interventions, we actually tend to forget about these persons, but they are also important in ensuring that they access decent work and economic growth. Open mapping activities can also help provide vocational training in the latest open source GIS tools to substantially reduce the proportion of the youth who are not in employment, and also those who are not able to access education. Actually, in Kenya right now, we are having a very high unemployment rate. So if we can use this data, it can help to see those men and women who are educated and they are not able to access employment and be able to create interventions. So through my research, I've been able to see, to identify, to learn that open mapping team have been able to do a very good job as regarding to mapping all the social amenities and making this data open. And they are engaging local communities in terms of doing these activities. And you can access this data from the comfort of your home or from wherever you are, using just your smartphone, and you are able to see. And this is what we want, because the stakeholders, industry innovation and infrastructure. Still, geospatial data is very important in terms of mapping industry activity, identifying areas where intervention is needed. By using this data, we can use to make sustainable infrastructure development. How? By improving the extent and quality of ICT infrastructure, of radio communication and backbone networks and extend them to the undeserved, remote, and rural areas, because these are the areas that we always forget. Mapping basic infrastructure such as roads, buildings, remotely is a first step actually in terms of understanding the gaps, where the gaps are, and solving these issues. So this information can be used to make decisions and put measures in place to cover them. GIS can be used to map inequality and identify areas where intervention is needed in terms of achieving the goal on reduced inequalities. By analyzing data, by analyzing income, wealth, and access to other services, GIS can help create designed interventions and reduce inequalities. I've learned that nighttime lights can be used to map regional inequality by detecting the pattern of inequality from remote sensing data, because remote sensing data is using satellite data, because satellites are able to, collect data on everything on Earth, and that includes the nighttime lights that can be used to detect the spatial pattern of inequality. And using that data, stakeholders can make informed decisions on it. Sustainable cities and communities is SDG number 11. And we see that geospatial technology can as well as help in achieving this SDG, whereby satellite imagery is used in mapping the land use, land cover, both in urban and in rural areas, developing of urban planning and developing of smart cities. GIS technologies can help to collect and analyze the data sets to help lower the wastage of resources. The use of Internet of Things and different sensors can help to estimate the amount of waste production from different areas, and can help in terms of allocation of optimum resources for waste collection and management. Also, sensors can be used to recognize the light intensity of streets and to provide the exact amount of lighting that is needed to make the streets smart and safe for everyone, including the pedestrians, including the cyclists, who we always tend to forget when we are planning the cities. Still on SDG 11, GIS tools can help to provide access to public transport, the schools, the local towns, the centers, all these social infrastructure, to be able to make informed decisions when we have this data at hand. Multispectral imagery from extended periods can be used to be able to, once it is processed, you can use this data to help to monitor the rising urbanization. Satellite data can also help to manually label the areas as built and unbuilt, because you can be able to do this from the satellite data. Geospatial technologies can also help to measure the urbanization with a high degree of geographic precision. And this can be created close to real time, because we have satellites being launched every now and then into the space. And so this data, we have it, it's being updated every now and then. So GIS and remote sensing applications help to automate land assessment, which helps actually in the administration to identify areas for developing low-income housing facilities. Like in Kenya, we are having this project running so that we can help everyone to be able to access affordable housing. Responsible consumption and production, which is SDG number 12. How can GIS help to achieve this? By mapping access to the resources, identifying areas where intervention is needed. By analyzing data on resource use, GIS can help to design targeted intervention and to improve resource outcomes. Issues to do with solid waste management, solid waste consumption. Geospatial data can help urban planners and governments understand the distribution and patterns of waste and production issues the cities face. And also, through this, they can be able to create informed interventions. Also, still, geospatial data can be used to determine air pollution through remote sensing across different industries and be able to create targeted interventions as pertains to air pollution. SDG number 13 on climate action. Currently, we are having issues to do with the climate action because climate affects many other things, especially food security. It affects food security. It also affects access to clean water and sanitation. It also affects the issues to do with the disasters management that we are having rising every day in different regions of the world. So satellite imagery is very important in this, in terms of detections of large-scale important impacts of climate, especially on the hazards on human lives. So the data, if it's made open, can help stakeholders to make informed decisions in terms of achieving this SDG, because GIS will help the community to undertake the vulnerability mapping to strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-related hazards. The humanitarian OpenStreetMap have been able to do a lot of work on this. And we've had calls every day when we have, especially when we had the recent disasters hitting. We had them making calls and for mappers to volunteer to participate in this, so that this information can be used to map evacuation centers. We map the health clinics, we map the schools and other important infrastructure. We need this information during emergencies to be able to plan the evacuations. The roads, the buildings, we need this information to be able to plan properly for disaster response and also to be able to plan for evacuations, so that we are able to understand where do we go and how do we reach those in need when we have this information. Life below water is SDG number 14. So life below water, the satellite imagery provides data that can be used to develop models that can be used to detect the ocean pollution, the oil spills. So also in identifying the potential fishing zones and ocean temperature, which will help make an informed decision on how to control and end this pollution. In Kenya, we have people who are doing illegal fishing. I'm not sure if it's happening in other areas of Africa, but we have this. So how do we help and how do we reduce such cases? How do we create such interventions? We can only make such interventions if we have data that can help us to make informed decisions. Data that GIS can help also map the marine ecosystems, the mangroves, and other protected areas where intervention is needed. By analyzing all this data on ocean health, GIS will help make designed interventions and protect marine life. The life on land, which is SDG number 15. Satellite imagery is equally important on this in terms of being used in quantifying the forest cover, deforestation, the forest degradation, the forest biomass, all these, and even issues to do with degradation of the wetlands. Socioeconomic evaluation can only be done if we have this geospatial data at hand. So this satellite data, if it's made free and open, can be used to make informed decisions and will help the stakeholders, the decision makers, to stop deforestation and be able to see where degradation is happening, to be able to make interventions. So GIS, using GIS, we can be able to map the ecosystem and be able to identify areas where intervention is needed by analyzing data on wildlife, the habitat, the land use, and be able to create designed targeted interventions in good time. So through this, we are able to protect land-based life. So by working with geospatial data, we can be able to achieve this SDG. SDG number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. GIS can be used to map conflicts and identify areas where intervention is needed. Everyone needs to access justice. Everyone needs to access, needs to be peaceful. We need to have strong institutions in place. So how? Only geospatial data can help us to be able to see where we need to have need to have targeted interventions and to promote peace and stability for everyone. So using GIS-based temporal maps on homicide rate, using GIS-based temporal maps, regional maps on completeness of birth registration, mapping administrative and civic services available to citizens and refugees, mapping justice and security services to understand gaps and monitor justice and security services, mapping the refugees, the host communities, and be able to bridge ethnic gaps by developing projects that include multiple segments of society, all working together towards a common goal. So we can achieve this SDG very well using the geospatial data. SDG number 17, which is the last, is a partnership for the goals. Collaboration is a very important aspect, both between the government, the private sector, the civil society. Collaboration is very, very key in terms of achieving this goal. And we find actually in achieving all the goals, we need the aspect of collaboration. We need the data and we need the aspect of collaboration so that we can be able to make informed decisions. So GIS can be used to map the partnerships, identify areas where intervention is needed. By analyzing data on partnerships, GIS can help to design targeted interventions and promote collaboration towards the SDGs. This can be done through mapping government revenue as a share of the GDP, which is very possible. Mapping the share of the population using the internet. This information is available actually. Supporting local communities around open data, free and open source software, and adopting and expanding on existing open standards. All this can help us to collaborate and work together. Promoting entrepreneurship around open technologies, we can be able to collaborate and work together when we use this data that is already available. In my conclusion, we see that GIS plays a very important role in terms of ensuring that we are on track towards a sustainable future. It's only by using GIS that we are able to visualize data, that we are able to map everything and anything at any time. GIS can help provide valuable insights that can make informed decisions and support the achievement of the SDGs. So as technology continues to advance, we cannot do away with GIS. Actually, it's becoming even more critical to include GIS in every aspect of work that we do in terms of working towards achieving these SDGs. So thank you very much. In terms of putting together this presentation, and if you want to read more about achieving the SDGs using geospatial technologies, and for your further reading and research, these are the areas, these are the links that I have shared that you can go through them and look at them at your own time and be able to understand more and get more information as pertains to achieving these SDGs using geospatial technologies. There is a lot that has been done, a lot of research. Organizations have done a lot. And many projects have been done locally and internationally as pertains regarding achieving the SDGs using the geospatial technologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for your presentation. Very important topic and relates to SDGs, predicted by the United Nations in the 2030 agenda. So we'll see if there is any question. What are the fast softwares in GIS and most sensitive to use in SDGs investigation or SDGs achievements?
Okay, thanks for the question. I can see it. What are the first softwares in GIS and remote sensing to use in SDGs investigation? Actually, the softwares are many, but I would encourage people to use the open software because with open software, then open source software, then everyone can be able to access and can be able to access the data and be able to make informed decision. The softwares are many. The ones that I know that are open source is QGIS. I'm not sure if Mapbox is open. Esri, I know, is licensed. Esri software. But QGIS is the one that is mostly commonly used by most people and most organizations. And you can do analysis with it well using QGIS. So I've seen most people using QGIS, and I would recommend it as an open source software.
Okay, thank you.
And we have one more. I will paste it also for you. So taking into account all the SDGs that you presented, which one you think it's more easily tackled in a local level? Which or all of these SDGs can be a local government or a local organization can achieve easily. I will paste the question now.
Thanks for the question. In my opinion, SDG number 1, which is no poverty and also zero hunger. Number 1 to number 4 are easily achievable at a local level, because these are basic amenities, everyday life. We're talking about food, access to food. We're talking about access to education, access to good health. So these are basic amenities that everyone should have, at least. So I think these 4 are easily achievable at a local level. You engage the local communities, it becomes easier for them to understand that they need to access good health facilities, they need to access food. Yes, so those 4 are easily achievable at a local level, in my opinion.
Thank you, Miriam. I don't know if there is any other question. If not, well, the video will be uploaded to YouTube. And if any of you have any question, you can let us know via email, and we will forward the questions to Miriam. And well, thank you, Miriam, for your time and for your presentation today. It's really interesting, the topic. And for the attendees, thank you also, Naima, for organizing this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for attending. Thank you for your time, taking your time to listen to me. And I'm grateful, and thank you for the questions, and looking forward to hear more. If you have any more questions, you can, as you've mentioned, you can just forward them and I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. Thank you.